Hello and welcome to the hashtag project with me, Harshin. On today's episode, I interviewed James Sommerville, former VP Global Design at the Coca-Cola Company and currently the founder of Known Unknown. Do visit knownunknown.co, especially if you're a designer. Moving on from Attic to the next phase of your life, and this is how we started off the interview as well, which is Coca-Cola, right? How did that happen? And if you could just lead us into not just how it happened, but what else did you do at Coca-Cola?
Got it. Maybe I could show you a couple of images, and I've been conscious I'm talking.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
let me do a screen share, if that's okay.
Yes,
maybe
absolutely.
we can add this to the conversation. If you enable my screen share, I'll come back and. But I think the story of the story of my journey to Coca-Cola was interesting too. Mm-hmm. Originally I received this project.
Okay.
Now, this is not my work. This is July or August of 2006. Germany World Cup, FIFA World Cup in Germany, fantastic World Cup. And then Coca-Cola called me and said, James, okay, this is how we were looking in the summer of 2006 at the FIFA World Cup. We need to move on. Would you be interested in helping the Coca-Cola brand in the communication of football in the world of football, create a new identity for Coke and football, soccer? So I said, sure, because this work was okay, but I mean, no, it's also very textured and complicated, and there's some guy, holding a chicken. It feels like, maybe look for something more iconic for Coke. So the project that we delivered was this my very first project with Coca-Cola. Wow. How to capture the game, how to capture the brand, and how to capture the world in one piece of work. So it becomes timeless, simple, modular, scalable, any country, any team. It's immediately soccer, football. We can tell by the pattern. And so for us, this was a kind of great introduction to Coca-Cola. Right. And my first project in 2006. And then I worked with them on my client for like 6 or 7 years, and then eventually they called me and said, "Hey James, please would you consider coming in and join the family?" And then so I joined Coke from that point on. And when I joined Coke, there was a lot of this too. Like it was very all over the world. This is a huge machine. Different execution, etc. So I went for more of a classic route at the time. I was fascinated by the archives. I was fascinated by the beautiful work from the 1960s, the 1940s, how Coca-Cola had played such an important role in popular culture. And I was looking for these inspiration from the past to see, how you could take something like this, which is a beautiful sketch or painting from maybe the 1940s, and even when you get into the detail, has the light and the liquid moment. And I thought, well, how do we shoot this today? How do I replicate this? So yeah, we did a few experiments like this, where all of a sudden it's still the same bottle, it's still the same liquid, and it's still the same beauty, but maybe there's just a new way to start to think about and express it. So part of my initial, kind of period of Coca-Cola was to explore new ways of communicating the same story.
Fabulous. And if you could speak about some of the campaigns that really, caught the attention of the entire world that you did at Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I mean, Coca-Cola is such a huge stage for creativity.
Right.
Always wanting to stay relevant to young people. Maybe today, we may be called Gen Z, but certainly to be always in the, conversation.
Right.
And when I think about the conversation, I think with Coke, it has to be a conversation around the dinner table and then around the world at the same time.
Right.
So that's the beauty of the brand like Coca-Cola, is it can be amongst friends, we're eating pizza, we're having a Coke, we're having a conversation, and then it through social media and through the power of creativity can quickly move across the world at the same time. So I was always very mindful of the scale of a brand like Coke, not just the small conversation, but the huge conversation. One of the things that I enjoyed was this notion, and I'm going to go back to screen share because it's a visual story,
Absolutely.
was how to kind of like take again these archive images from Coke. Beautiful work from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. This is like iconic advertising.
Absolutely. This looks so good.
Yeah, and the common thread is the Coca-Cola bottle is always present. The product is always there, and without the product, there's no story. So, but I gave these posters, these advertisements to 100 designers. With my team, we work with 100 designers to produce 100 posters to celebrate the centenary. Because Coca-Cola was 100. It was designed. The bottle was designed in 1915. So what came back then was this expression of the brand. Again, central is always the Coca-Cola bottle, but different through the eyes and the minds of different creators. Seeing the Coca-Cola bottle in this way, allows people to express the brand like this. And this shows the confidence of an iconic brand, to allow others to express the brand in a way that they see it. Now, surely it's held together through color palette, through the use of the Coca-Cola bottle is always there. You'll always see the Coca-Cola bottle. Sometimes it's hidden, but it's always part of the story. And that was the idea, to kind of create this new gallery of expression that would make Coca-Cola brand feel not 100 years old, but 100 years young.
Correct.
For the Coca-Cola glass bottle. So for us, this is just a good way and a good lesson to, even when things do feel old, 100 years is a long time. It can also feel like it has a new role and a new injection of energy and vitality if seen through the eyes of a whole new audience. So I think that was also a very important part of understanding the brand itself. And we did many things like galleries and creative ways to engage our global system. And so that was a very fun project for me in 2015.
Right. And you did something very special in 2017 as well, right? Which is primarily to do, I think, with Australia, the Australian packaging, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's amazing how, so Coca is so huge and so, on every street corner, right? And so present in our lives. But when it comes down to it, I think there's a level of intimacy required with the brand.
Correct.
I mean, brands are intimate. Brands have a personal relationship with an individual. And so when the beauty of working on a Coca-Cola, you could be across the world and culturally relevant, but you have to connect with the consumer and the community. So in Australia in 2017, the country was going to a national vote for the same-sex marriage, and many brands, I guess, would come out and support this great cause. And Coca-Cola did the same. They want to create a piece of packaging, and it was hashtag say yes, vote yes, or something. So we created for the first time, a unique piece of packaging that took the Coca-Cola famous script logo and created a word that would live on the packaging. And Coca-Cola has never really used other words apart from Coca-Cola on its packaging. Maybe our names, but that was a different campaign. So I brought this with me here today as well. And so I figured, to use the Coca-Cola script and create the word love. It's a very timeless and powerful sort of expression. It brings the world together. You can bring two together and create a word. And so this idea of, showing how the brand feels about humanity, how the brand feels about the campaign. But it becomes a timeless piece of packaging. It's not just about 2017, because we'll want to talk about love in 50 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. So we will look for ideas where, they are timely, but they are also timeless. That's an important part of the Coca-Cola DNA, I think. And so the love packaging was a great project, a single project for a single campaign, but still, for me, a very memorable and fun project to work on.
No, absolutely. That looks fabulous. It truly is timeless, like you mentioned. So a question here then. Do you consciously want to be a part of conversations or also drive conversations? Either way, right? Do you consciously see and scout for such moments? Either it is to do with the country or the culture that you're a part of, but do you consciously do that? Are you always looking out for that?
I think so. I think the old days of brands pushing messaging, like to consumers, and we're like, oh, okay, what is this? We will still watch a TV commercial. We'll still look at a piece of advertising in print. Sure, that will still be relevant. But how the best brands engage the consumer in the conversation? So less push, and more like, okay, Len, what do you think? How do you see it? And I think this is the future of great marketing. Not just the voice from above, from the brand, coming down to consumers below, but a two-way dialogue that allows a voice of the consumer, but that also solidifies the relationship. It solidifies the engagement emotionally. And I think that's important for us now with any brand. It could be an automotive brand, a beverage, a food, a restaurant, an airline. How do we, there's so much choice, right? How do we choose? And I think when we choose is when we feel there's a connection, like a friendship in a way. And so the future of that for me is when brands allow that two-way conversation to happen. So not just purely advertise, but actually let's, what do you think? What would you do? And it takes a very brave brand to allow and give permission to do that. But we'll see. The next 10 years, I think, will be very interesting for brands like that.
Absolutely. I think, so do you think when you're making a decision in the boardroom, right, you have a ton of ideas on the table. A lot of it today is definitely led by data, right? That this is going to be the next big campaign, or this is what we should be doing, this is what we are listening to, this is what the consumers are speaking. So do you think intuition, which used to also drive that, I think this campaign is going to do really well, right? Do you think that's taken a backseat somewhere? Or do you still think that intuition does drive you to actually choose the best campaign that the brand should do?
I think intuition still has a huge role. Data has such a huge role. Data can provide the signals, provide the evidence that something is working, not working, connecting, not connecting, etc. So data allows an intuitive idea to be amplified, maybe, because there's but in the beginning, if creativity is only based on data, then maybe we won't make too much progress, because we only know what we know. And great creativity takes risks. It intentionally goes into the unknown. And then we realize, oh, wow, this is amazing. I'm going to share it. I'm going to repost it. And then that data is important for us then to learn from and then amplify. But I think they have to live together. If it was all data, then maybe it would be slow progress creatively. If it was all intuition, then you would miss so many opportunities that you could have amplified through the knowledge and data. So it's definitely and many other things in there as well, in terms of making sure it's present at the right time, and where and how and what. But certainly, I think data and intuition, the magic is when they work together.
Both go hand in hand is what you're primarily saying, right?
Yeah,
Both absolutely need to work with each other, right? So just a question in terms of how do you define the intuition that you were speaking about, right? Of course, probably you would also say that it comes with a lot of experience. It comes in with a lot of things that that you've sort of done over the years. But how would you define it if you had to?
I would say that as a creative, and we can define ourselves as designers, advertising, digital. There's so many creative disciplines, but I think there's an always-on mindset from a creative. There is no 9 to 5. There is no turn off on a Friday and let's go to the weekend. Like, you are constantly like looking, observing, soaking up. I jump in a car or maybe an Uber. I go to the airport, and in that 20-minute drive, I've maybe seen 100 identities, 50 slogans, 25 photographic styles on billboards. This for me is like reading a design book, of observing what is happening in the world today. From minimal, clean graphic to rich photographic to storytelling to logos of local entrepreneurs, shop mom and pop shops. This is where the inspiration is, and it gives you a kind of a barometer of what is happening in the world, and what is important, what are people using, color palette, typeface, whatever. For me, then that drives some thinking in certainly in my own process, to think about what could be next. Why are we doing this today, and what could tomorrow also look like as well? So I think it's that always on mindset that any creator moving into an industry like this, it probably already has instinctively. And if not, then maybe needs to think about how you're constantly looking for those ideas.